สวัสดีครับ I'm Point from ค้นพบ Recently, I had the opportunity to do a 10-day meditation retreat here in the comfort of my own home. I was fortunate enough to have learned meditation throughout the past year with a very talented teacher, in my opinion, a monk who is Canadian and came to ordain in Thailand, Yutta Dhammo Bhikkhu. Now, I've talked about him occasionally in my previous clips, but today I want to reflect on what I learned from this retreat and what I learned from trying my best to keep a meditation habit. Now, specifically, I want to talk about how meditation makes you more humble and how it cultivates wisdom. And if I were to describe it in a super nutshell, the objective of what we're doing when we're sitting in meditation or when we're doing walking meditation is to be mindful or be aware or observe whatever it is your mind is doing, right? The meditation that I learned with Yutta Dhammo Bhikkhu is a form of vipassana meditation, which means insight meditation. And we want to focus our attention or our mind or our focus on the current experience of reality in the present moment, in the here and now. So for example, as I'm sitting here filming this video, am I aware of, say, the pain in my leg or my back given my body posture? Or am I aware of the thought processes that are going through my mind? Do I see how these thoughts generate perhaps a certain story or a certain commentary, right? Maybe I'm thinking about my career. Maybe I'm thinking about the COVID-19 situation. Maybe I'm thinking about my family, my friends, my past relationships, whatever it is. And do you notice the chatter of the mind? Has that thinking transformed into an emotion? Right, so that's, if I were to put it in a nutshell, my understanding of it. So why does it make you more humble? Why does it cultivate wisdom? We begin to see that our experience of reality or how we relate to the world, there's nothing permanent about it. Everything arises, stays for a while, changes forms, or ceases to exist. Now, I'm nowhere near an advanced meditator. I don't consider myself advanced, but I have tried to study some of the theories of what the objective is, or what is the end point or goal point of this meditation practice. And of course, I'm nowhere near that end point or goal point or freedom from suffering or liberation or you know, as we all often hear through the Buddhist form of meditation. But I want to submit to you the value of meditation, that in my experience, I firmly believe that even if you've never practiced meditation before, you can relatively learn about yourself rather quickly if you are just diligent and systematic in your practice and give it a fair trial. Right? Give it a fair try. Give it a fair chance. Right? And of course, it would be very helpful if you have the guidance of a skillful teacher, which I think is very important. I would like to emphasize that I think having a skillful teacher who knows the ins and outs of it, who knows what he's doing or she's doing, is important for guiding our spiritual growth, the growth of our mind, our self-understanding. So, okay, so imagine you're sitting there, right? And you're trying to focus your awareness into the present moment. You start, generally speaking, with the stomach, with the rising and falling of the stomach. You try to focus your attention on your stomach. As you breathe in, it rises, it expands. You feel that, you notice that. As you exhale, you breathe out, your stomach contracts and falls. So you note that and you observe that. Sooner or later, what's going to happen? The mind's going to drift off into a chain of thinking, into a thought process. And the objective is to watch that thinking mindfully and in a non-judgmental way. Just observe it, as if you were a scientist observing a scientific experiment. Just try to watch it and see how it plays out. And once you are aware of it, bring your attention back to your stomach and start over again. What you begin to see is the inherently monkey mind nature of your own mind. It's always thinking, it's always making stories, and very quickly it is so fast that it can think of something in the past that it doesn't like, and then it labels a judgment onto that event. I don't like this. I don't like how this person treated me in this case. I don't like how my past relationship ended. If you're not being diligent and attentive and aware of what's going on here, it can easily evolve into a whole story. Now you have a whole story about what happened and you explain it in your mind chatter is going off on it, and then that story develops into an emotion. Perhaps you feel upset, maybe you feel angry at a certain person, maybe you feel sorry for yourself, maybe you feel sorry for somebody else, maybe you feel sad, and the list goes on. And it's humbling to see that these things are what gets you, if you're not aware of it, it's what gets you to react to whatever it is you don't like. You always, in other words, we are always thinking in terms of, I like this, I don't like that, this is me, this is mine. And you begin to become self-conscious, self-aware. Now, self-conscious in this context, referring to being aware of yourself, being aware precisely what your mind and your ego is doing, what your self-concept is doing. And then you begin to see that all your previous reactions, maybe you get angry and you argue back, or you yell back at somebody and then you later regret it, or any action you take, it comes from a place where you are completely identified with, or you completely believe what your monkey mind is saying, and you feel completely justified to take that action. But that action, the chain of cause and effect, only serves to produce more unhappiness and more suffering for yourself and for other people. You begin to develop wisdom to see that you don't need to react all the time. You can just watch it mindfully, and you'll notice that if you just watch it in a non-judgmental way, in a impartial way, in a way that's free from judgment and free from biases. You learn about yourself and how you have a tendency to want to be biased, to hold and protect your position, and just watch it. No need to react. Then you begin to see that, hey, sooner or later your emotions will change, it will die down. And that's what I suppose they mean by impermanence. Nothing can last forever. You can't maintain a negative emotion forever. You can't feel sad forever. You can't feel happy forever. You can't feel enthusiastic forever. You can't feel excited forever. You begin to appreciate the nature of life. And you begin to get a bigger, wider perspective. Once you see how this mechanism is operating in yourself, how you always react to your own mind chatter, you always react to your own anger, your own biases, that you want to protect this self-concept. Oh, how dare he do this to me? How dare she do that to me? When you see how you react on that, and you begin to confront that in a non-judgmental way, you begin to become more humble, because you see how futile it is, how useless it is to react in those ways, how unhelpful it is, how it generates more suffering for yourself and others. And you cultivate wisdom, and you cultivate strength of mind, if I may use that word, because being mindful means to confront with what your mind is doing, to see it. You will see things that your mind comes up with that you might not like. Frustration. That certainly was the theme of my meditation retreat here at home the past 10 days in the late May, early June. I did this from 23rd May till 1st of June. And you begin to see, in my case, how frustrating it is, how the mind always wants this, wants that, likes this, likes that. What do I mean by that? When I'm doing my walking meditation, when I'm doing my sitting meditation, my mind always jumps around thinking that, you know, oh, when will this walking meditation be done? And reacting to my boredom, in other words, reacting to my frustration, wanting to get somewhere, always wanting to react to something. When it's bored, it thinks of something else, and before I know it, I'm lost in a train of thought about something. And that develops self-awareness, and that makes you more humble, because once you understand this mechanism in yourself, you begin to understand it in other people as well, and you begin to appreciate just how difficult it is to master yourself. So you begin to develop wisdom, see things for what they are without having to react to them emotionally or in a judgmental way, and you begin to develop the appreciation of how other people are going through the same struggles as well. Maybe they're not aware of it, maybe they are, but they still can't, you know, maybe they still don't have the awareness to stop themselves from reacting to their emotions, or reacting to what other people say, you know, getting angry, getting upset, reacting back, you name it. And this is a very humbling experience in my point of view that I want to share. And it makes you more at peace. It makes you more willing to accept what is, because you realize that your suffering is implied in your resistance to what is. I'm suffering, for example, because I just started my walking meditation and I'm already thinking about sitting meditation. In other words, I don't want to do walking anymore. It's boring, it's painful, or, you know, what am I doing this for? I want to get to the next step. I want to get to dinner. I want to get to lunchtime. You name it. It always wants to use or imagine some future or outer circumstance as something more important. And you react based on those things. So you don't really accept what is in the here and now. And once you develop and cultivate this awareness, this self-understanding, this wisdom per se, then you begin to be more humble and you accept what is less. Now, this does not mean that you don't take action to solve problems, but you take action and solve problems in a more, you know, in a place that comes from wisdom. You understand that what type of action needs to be done and just how much, and you don't need to do more than that. And you accept whatever the outcome will be. You don't have to suffer with what you don't like. And this is a very long road, a very long journey, in my opinion, to begin to learn what this truly means, because again, the mind is very much like a monkey, and learning how to watch it objectively, observe it mindfully, is, you can think of it as a skill that you begin to cultivate and develop. And again, inner strength, right? As I mentioned previously just now, the inner strength comes from the place where when you see your mind come up with a story and you see your emotional reaction to that story. Say, for example, you think about somebody who has wronged you before in the past, who has cheated you, who has betrayed you, who has robbed you of love or trust or whatever it is, you know, and your mind begins to have a reaction to that. And when you see that, you just watch it objectively. You put up with the emotional discomfort that comes up in that moment of time, and you watch it non-judgmentally. And eventually, you'll see that, hey, this doesn't kill me. I'm not going to die. And sooner or later, if I don't react to it, I don't stimulate it more. And I can be more at peace with it. And sooner or later, that emotion of negativity will die down or change into something else. And the ability to confront these emotions in a non-judgmental, non-reactive way, it strengthens your character. It strengthens your mind, I think. And that's the point of mindfulness. That's what I think a lot of the wise teachers, skillful teachers are trying to teach us. And I just want to share this in today's video. Now, One more thing that you begin to learn about yourself as you do, say, a meditation, sitting there, watching your breath, and then you notice what's happening in your mind, you notice what your mind is doing, you notice what's going around you. Of course, you're closing your eyes, but you can still hear, right? And you try to watch things objectively. What happens usually is you will notice a certain thought pattern that comes up. And they often come up in a similar fashion, in a similar pattern, so to say. And you begin to understand, it reflects a certain perspective or viewpoint that you have on a certain subject or situation. And it's nothing more than a belief system per se. You see the same thoughts coming up, same thinking patterns coming up, and you begin to be humble because you realize that, I have a tendency to think about this topic in this way. I have a tendency to look at that person in a positive light or negative light. Why is that? You begin to understand yourself more. I apologize for the sound in the background noise. It's the ice cream truck coming by. Not ice cream truck, but ice cream motorcycle. So anyways, once you begin to appreciate your perspectives on life, your perspectives on certain subjects and certain people, or on yourself, you begin to understand more about your ego structure, which I often talk about in my videos. And that is the structure of your sense of self, your self-concept. And you begin to notice how your mind, your intellect, always works to defend and protect and justify whatever it is that your self-concept is identified with. So this is another self-insight that you start to gain. You start to learn more about how the ego mind deceives itself per se. Now, I've talked about this before in a clip in the past about how the nature of the mind is very self-deceiving, self-deception goes on. You begin to understand that more. You begin to understand your ego more. And you begin to understand and see that your reactions are based on when your ego is perceiving some sense of threat to its self-concept. For example, I have a political view like this. I like political party A. Somebody else says political party B is better. Why do you feel defensive right away? Why do you feel the need to defend or get upset right away? Why do you react? These things you will start to learn through meditation practice. But again, you need to give yourself time to give it a fair chance. Be diligent in the practice. Because in the beginning, it may seem like you're not gaining much, you're not gaining the fruits of meditation, you're not gaining the results. But if you give it some chance, some time, and if you have the guidance of a skillful teacher, which I strongly recommend, then you will begin to see these things for yourself sooner or later. And I want to share that in today's video because I think it is a humbling experience that makes us better people, more humble and wiser people, and we can appreciate just how much conflict there is in the world. Because you see, ultimately, conflict does not come from outside. It is not because of other external circumstances. It always comes from within yourself, within your own judgments. In that case, conflict is always a result of your egoic judgments. You can look at it that way. And that's a humbling realization to see. So I want to share this today in my reflection on how meditation makes you more humble and cultivates wisdom. You see clearly. You see with clarity. You have bigger perspective on things. You see that things happen. They might be uncomfortable. You might not like it, but that's okay. They'll stay for a while and they'll cease to exist. They'll change. Impermanence, or as they say, anicca. So yeah, I hope this video was valuable for you. Thank you for watching. And I'll post a link to in the description box about where I learned to meditate. You can book an appointment with this monk that I mentioned, Yuttadhammo Bhikkhu, which I really respect him. I look up to him as a very, very wise teacher. I look up to him very much. And yeah, and the link will be a booklet on you can read if you're interested on how to meditate in Vipassana style. Okay, and you can also book an appointment with the monk and completely free of charge. And just follow the instructions on the website. I hope this was valuable for you, and we'll see you next time. สวัสดีครับ